The 49ers improved to 6-3, but by Tuesday, this one doesn't feel like a big step forward. Mykell Williams now out for the season. No moves made at the deadline. The 49ers are choosing to roll with who they have. We'll discuss that and more on today's 49K Pod.
You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Tuesday, November 4th, voting day in America. If you haven't got out there to vote, go ahead and do that. And it's the first day in a few days that you guys have heard from me. I'm alive. Survived the weekend out in New York. But yes, because I was out in New York, I traveled Friday, so wasn't able to do my preview show. Sunday was a bit of a blur. Didn't get back till late. Was hanging out with my co-host here, Weston, so didn't get to do a post-game show. We punted it to Tuesday for our Player of the Week show, but there's a lot more to talk about since then, so we're going to try to get through it all. But Weston, we met each other for the first time this weekend. Why don't you give us a little recap of how that went?
Yeah. Steph, I had asked you a couple weeks ago, just threw it out at you. I was like, hey, I happen to have an extra ticket. I know you like to pop in and out every once in a while. And you took me up on the offer and you got to do the sights and scenes on the East Coast prior to us meeting up in the parking lot of the game on Sunday and then journeying to our seats. And we got to watch a victory. And, I mean this when I say this. My family and I are grateful that we got to welcome you into our home for an evening. You got to see what is the craziness that transpires in this house. But more than anything, we've been doing this show this is our third season, I think, right? Doing this together to finally just give you a hug and say it's been a pleasure and thank you for everything was awesome. And I hope we get to do it again.
We most definitely will do it again. I mean, you let me know that the 49ers are playing the Giants next year in New York as well. So excited to hang out with you. What I'm not looking forward to then, Weston, is the possibility of yet another player out for the season for the 49ers on that damn MetLife turf. Kyle Shanahan did confirm that Mykell Williams is out for the season. And, that happened yesterday, but didn't get to talk to you guys yesterday. So rehashing that here. We got a couple of other Steve Jennifer. So Weston's wife in the comments, I told her I'd put her comments up. There you go. There you go. But some other injury updates that we got from Kyle Shanahan when he spoke with the media yesterday. Jake Brendel has a chance to come back this week. Offensive lineman Ben Barch will continue to practice this week, so he has a better chance of returning. But also, we could talk about that too. If you guys didn't notice, at left guard, you had Spencer Burford on Sunday instead of Connor Colby. So wonder what the 49ers feel about that. Do they like Spencer Burford more than, maybe Ben Barch, who is still working his way back from injury? That is yet to be seen. But a couple updates from wide receivers. We got Brandon Ayuk, who will not have his practice window opened this week. That's a bit of a blow. I get it. I kept saying that week 10, maybe a little early, but I think we're also getting to the point now where it's like, okay, come on now. Like, you got to open his practice window at least. Practice window, 21 days long. So you want to give him some time to ramp up, but clearly the 49ers don't feel he's at that point yet. We also got an update about Ricky Pearsall, who will continue to be evaluated this week. God, hopefully at least he can come back this week. But I mean, this is a big blow. On one hand, Weston, we didn't get the plethora of several small injuries, small multi-week injuries that we usually get after games. But now we just got this big one, right? Mykell Williams out for the rest of the season, ending his rookie campaign short, position that was already hurting for this team. So just like 4 minutes away from this game, being over to have seen that, like, huge blow.
Yeah, and the MetLife Turf Monster wins again, as you saw it. Obviously, I got a much better view when we got home and we're able to watch highlights than from. We don't have to tell everybody where my seats in Giant Stadium are, but they're quite a distance away. That being said, but the updates around the injuries are no updates outside of Mykell Williams. Steph, I always say on this show, like, I'm tired of the talking heads out there that just feel this need to be right all the time versus like being a fan and being supportive. But I'm going to take a lap in some sense where if you go back earlier this year when we were talking together, I said, don't be surprised if you don't see Brandon Ayuk all season, right? Especially dependent upon how the season was progressing. Did it make sense to throw somebody out there? I still think there's value in opening his window and in getting him back at some point just to run around, run some routes, right? Shake a little bit of rust off so it doesn't become this like insanely long off season for Brandon. But, with the way things are shaping up with the continued injuries, we're going to talk about kind of the lack of aggression in the trade window. Or around the trade deadline. I just feel like the writing's on the wall that there is no urgency to bring Brandon Ayuk back whatsoever. On the 49ers part, maybe his camp feels differently. Maybe they don't. But I don't think there's any urgency to bring him back. And I think what we're looking at is the go forward. I don't know how else to put it. But I agree with you. Like, would love to have Ricky back in short order. It's been a tough 2 years on the injury front for him. You'd love to see him get a couple more games under what was a pretty impressive start to the season, just to see what his production looks like.
Yeah, I agree. And it just doesn't feel like they have a lot of urgency for, a lot of guys coming back. And what's really starting to bum me out too is, we had Yetur Gross-Matos, who was primed to come back for this week. I talked about it on my show on Thursday with Wayne, Asala talking about he had a chance to come back. We were excited. And, then we come to find out the following day, he's not practicing. He re-aggravated his hamstring. I mean, that's obviously not the kind of news that you want to hear. He's now back on IR. And then who was it? Jacob Cowan. I think it was Matt Mayoko that said something about Cowan. I'm going to try to find the tweet here because I know that I had retweeted it. It was from a couple days ago now. But basically, it just doesn't seem very promising the way the 49ers have dealt with injuries. And you continue to wonder, is it this strength and conditioning staff? At this point, like, that seems to be the common denominator with a lot of these things, right? That they're not handling these very well. Okay, it was Javi who posted about it, but it was on Matt Barrows. Oh, sorry, it was Barrows, not Mayoko, who said, quote, Jacob Cowan told me, as in Barrows, the other day, he's had 4 hamstring injuries since the summer. So every time he starts to come back and gets close to returning and starts hitting Jacob Cowan speeds, the injury occurs again. Like, at this point, this 49ers team is just showing inability to properly rehab guys. And so when you're talking about guys who, seem to be not promised, but promising for them to come back, like Pearsall, like Brandon Ayuk, even like Brock Purdy. I mean, I get turf toe's tricky injury in general, but, this is just like a theme now of guys not coming back when they say they will. And, it's reflecting poorly on the 49ers staff. And again, like I said, their ability to rehab. So not great. I don't know if you had seen that one, Weston, on the Cowan thing, but
I think that's the concern, Steph. Like, you can't prevent injuries in the NFL. Like, just call it what it is when the injuries are actually happening. It's bad luck, but it's also part of the game. And, like, yeah, it's egregious for the 49ers, and we see it firsthand because we're 49er fans, but it's also egregious for a lot of teams that we're just not paying attention to throughout the course of the year. My bigger concern, and where I would be highly critical of the training staff of the San Francisco 49ers, is not in the prevention of injury, it's the recovery from injury. It feels like there's no wherewithal around the return timeline. It just feels like things are just thrown out there. And then every time, to your point, every time somebody's coming back, they're back out, and it's longer than they were originally planned to be out. That's where I'm concerned, where I'm like, I don't ever want to question anybody's professionalism and what they do, especially when they're more knowledgeable than me. But I have to think there has to be better options out there at this point.
Yeah, so that's something we'll probably revisit at the end of the season. I would hope the 49ers, make some changes in that department. But in the meantime, Weston, they had a chance to make some changes to this team via a trade today, with the trade deadline happening today at noon Eastern. Was it noon Eastern, or I think it was later than that, actually?
4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. Eastern. And it came and went with the 49ers not making any moves. They were, of course, reportedly in discussions with a lot of different teams on players. The Trey Hendrickson thing kept coming up, but we also kept hearing the Bengals were not trying to trade him.
Yeah.
Fine. We also heard, they were sniffing around on the Dolphins, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips earlier this week went to the Eagles, so that was no longer going to be an option, but there were still some options for the 49ers to pursue out there. There was Arden Key as well. Jermaine Johnson was the big one for today that people were keeping an eye on, and just did not happen. Really quickly, before we talk about how we feel about the 49ers not making a move, I just want to rehash the moves that were made today, because there were some big ones. The Cowboys traded for linebacker Logan Wilson from the Bengals. The Cowboys also traded for the Jets defensive tackle Mykell Williams for a first-round pick of 2027, 2026 second-round pick, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. The Seahawks got a little better today. They traded for wide receiver Rashid Shaheed from the Saints. He reunites with Kubiak out there. And the Colts traded for Sauce Gardner for 2 first-round picks, 2026, 2027. And Adonai Mitchell, the Jets got as well. Those were like the big blockbuster trades. Jags traded for Jacoby Myers, wide receiver. Those are the big ones, but those are for big ones. Those are pretty big. And actually, as I'm speaking here, I just got a notification. Of course, deadline passed, so don't get excited. But Jordan Schultz reports that the Bears and 49ers were among the teams that tried to trade for Jets pass rusher Jermaine Johnson II. New York wanted a second-round pick, so Chicago pivoted to another player, Joe Tyron Shoyinka, while San Francisco ultimately stayed put. So there you have it. And remember, Weston, I don't know if you were tracking this throughout the day in those final moments, the last couple hours. You get the news that it's pretty much a fire sale for the Jets. They trade away Sauce, and then they trade away Mykell Williams. And then there were the reports saying the Jets aren't done, and so we're all waiting on pins and needles, and we assume that has to be the 49ers trying to work something out with Jermaine Johnson. And it seemed all but sure to happen, except when it didn't.
Yeah. Well, Steph, it's great. First and foremost, the trade deadline, the NFL has been actually really exciting for the last few years. If you recall, early in your football fandom, there was not much activity that took place in the NFL around the trade deadline. It's gotten more exciting. There's a rhyme or reason to what everyone's doing. What the Cowboys are doing, I don't even know if it makes sense. I mean, they just continue to play themselves out of this, but they did need to rebolster in spots. But I think there's 2 different lenses. We're fans, right? As fans, we want our team to be highly active. You want them to be highly active when, with your own eyes, you can see that this team is depleted of bodies, but yet are still fully in the mix for a playoff spot and a playoff position. But I think we're also ignoring what John Lynch has publicly said, and Kyle, this entire time leading up to the trade deadline was, we're going to be prudent. We're not looking for rentals, right? We want people that we can have under contract control. Very few of these individuals fit that description. And look, you're hearing firsthand from a prominent talking head that the 49ers were very much being responsible, picking up the phone, making the calls, but they probably came into this with a line drawn of what they were willing to give up and what they weren't. They're not as stocked in the cupboard in draft picks as they were over the previous few years. And you can say what you want, the value of a draft pick versus the value of a proven commodity in a player. It is what it is. I think they made their decision on how they were going to approach this. And if the individuals didn't check the box, then it wasn't happening. And I think this goes back, and I'm not the only one to say this. You saw it all across Twitter all day, but I believe this to be true. I think the 49ers as an organization are just as shocked that they're at 6-3 right now, given the slate of events, as 49er fans are. I think there was always a sentiment that 2025 was going to be bumps in the road, wasn't going to be the outcome that we were looking for. We're shedding cap, we're shedding veterans, putting ourselves in a position, to succeed, go forward. So it's hard to sit there and say, I'm going to go all in on. Look, with these injuries they have, to me, there's only two players in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball that actually raise where they are at this moment. That's Max Crosby and that's Myles Garrett. And they were never going to be in those equations. And we said this when the injuries happened. Without Bosa, without Warner, without some of these other cogs, even if it's a playoff team, it's not a playoff team that you're taking serious. It's just that, right? And so who in the rental world is going to actually make them serious right now? And I just don't think that was out there. And I think they just stuck to their guns. Like you're saying, they called the Jets. Everybody wanted to have Jermaine Johnson, contract control, things that they can do. Maybe the compensation wasn't as great or egregious from a draft pick perspective, but clearly it was, because two teams didn't pull the trigger and pivoted based on what the Jets were asking for.
I mean, I understand why the 49ers weren't going for rentals. That didn't make sense. Yes, they did tell us repeatedly that that's not what they were looking for. And I mean, I was fine with that. You need someone to not just help you for this year, given that you're not a Super Bowl contending team this season. That being said, like I still think they could have made a move to improve their team. But that also being said, I do also understand that it's not just up to the 49ers. I mean, for all we know, the 49ers were offering a third and we're not willing to move off of that spot. And we're hearing that the Jets wanted a second and they were not moving off of that spot, based on what the Jets got for Quinnen Williams and also for Sauce. I mean, why would they move off their spot, right? So, as the 49ers also said, and John Lynch has mentioned repeatedly, like, it takes two to tango. Another team has to be willing. And in this case, it just seemed like they couldn't get anything done. I just want to ask the chat here, like, I get that we wanted the 49ers to make a move. Would you have been okay if the 49ers slightly overpaid for a Jermaine Johnson and would have given up a second round pick in order to do that? Would you guys have been okay with that just for the sake of them getting any trade, or would the compensation of a second round pick bother you at all? Just curious for the people in the live chat, for anyone that's upset about it. I'm okay that they didn't give up a second, but I was hoping that they'd make some kind of move, right?
Of course.
Arden Key was available, who I thought would have probably gone for cheap, but then, leading up to the deadline, you hear the Titans are done. They're not going to trade anyone. So not sure if they were just also looking for a specific price point in their compensation and just weren't willing to move off of them if they didn't get it. I don't know. But when you're looking at a position that going into 2026 you'll have a Nick Bosa and a Mykell Williams both coming off major knee surgeries.
Yeah.
And you're going to be just expecting them to come back and be the same players right away. So that's kind of also why I was looking at, someone else to kind of help this team in 2026. Now, they did get Keon White, but as we mentioned on Keon White before, he's a guy who's going to be rushing from the interior for the most part. Bryce Huff, we should get him back this week, but we've said on Bryce Huff, like, he's better as a complimentary guy or just like a pure pass rush down sort of guy. And now he has to be like every down kind of guy. So I still think you're missing something. I'm sure they'll address it in the offseason, but pretty clear they weren't bending over backwards to get something done this time around.
No, they weren't. And I also think, look, we're talking about 2026, right? And 2026 is a ways away. And yes, they're going to have to face the inevitable of, like, they might go a whole season without Mykell Williams, right? Nick Bosa's injury was early enough in the year. You feel pretty confident that he'll find his way back on the field. But, you know, like, there is the offseason for these purposes, right? They shed a lot of cap. They're going to have significant cap room next year. Like, maybe that's when they go find their veterans, when they have a better sense of, like, what they really do need for 2026. You asked the question to the listeners and to the audience about would they have given up a second for Jermaine Johnson? I would, because of everything that you had just described. And I don't know what they do with a second round pick. I'm one of the believers of I like proven commodities more than I like draft picks. Draft picks are just like Christmas gifts until you open them, and then you realize that wasn't really all that fun in the first place. That's just kind of the way that I've always looked at them. And we've seen plenty of teams treat draft picks that you know, by not valuing them and had some success. But I get it. I just don't think there was enough of the people there. Maybe, and ultimately the ask was just too great for what the 49ers wanted to give up at this point in time. And now it's going to be practice squad hunting, scrap heap hunting for the remainder of the year to make sure you have 46 to trot out on game day.
Yeah, indeed. And so now we know the situation, right? The 49ers don't make any moves to improve their team today. You know, they had already acquired Keon White via that trade last week. And so you went into this game kind of expecting there'd be some struggles defensively, right? And, you know, Jackson Dart, talented quarterback. He could be dangerous with his legs. We saw that a few times, but we also saw a much better performance than what we'd seen the week prior. And I think that does give us some, you know, hope that, hey, maybe with who they do have available, they could actually make this work. And what I mean by make this work, I don't know if this is going to end up being a playoff team. Like, I get that remains to be seen. They definitely are trending in that direction if they continue to win these games. They're in position for that as of, you know, after week 9. But, you know, realistically, I don't know if they'll end up being a playoff team. But I do know that we can expect at least a competitive team. Yeah. And I think that's okay. Like, I think that's all the 49ers are worried about being this year. And they, like you said earlier, they've surprised themselves so far. Yeah. So let's see if who they have can surprise us again, right? Yeah. I mean, not a bad strategy.
No, surprise within expectations. I actually think George Kittle said it best. It's more like, well, how do you overcome the significant injuries that's happened? And it's really simple. Offense needs to be crisp and sharp and put up more points than they have. Special teams needs to be rock solid, which it actually pretty much has been, at least for the last handful of weeks. And the defense has just got to make a key stop here and there, and you're in every single football game. Now, the issue becomes, like, there's no depth behind the depth that is playing, right? So, like, one more injury, one more thing could be literally what sinks the Titanic here at this point in time. But what I find fun, I was actually just talking to Jenny about this before I came up here, because she was like, what are you and Steph going to talk about, you know? And I was just like, you know what's so crazy is, like, this year has obviously felt so different for so many reasons, but to me, it's still exciting because this heavy expectation of a Super Bowl has been lifted off, right? Like, that's what it's been for years and years. Now it's like I get to watch my team, and for the first time in a long time, I really don't have any expectation on what the outcome is going to be. The last time I had any conviction on what the outcome of a 49er game was going to be in this season was against the Rams, where I emphatically thought the 49ers didn't have a chance on a short week going into LA, coming off of all those injuries. And I'm just being honest. Like, I get to watch the Giants firsthand. Like, where the Giants are strong, the 49ers are weak, and they have this mobile quarter. I thought this was going to be problematic, like, this game. I really did. And it wasn't. They handled it with ease throughout this entire football game in all three phases, in my opinion. And I think that's what's given me hope and giving me excitement, is like, if I can just see and watch competitive football, and my football brain just tells me like, dude, they're not hoisting the Lombardi this year, but like, as long as we get to watch extra football and cheer on our team, I'll consider that a win. But then I'll just say this, it's the NFL. Crazier shit has happened. Do you know what I mean? You still got to lace them up every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, whenever your game is scheduled for. And I don't know, like, there's some excitement in that, and they haven't dropped the ball on the opportunity. They're 6-3. They could just as easily be 8-1 right now. They could just as easily also be 3-6, but like, they've been in, for the most part, they still have been in every single contest they've played, given every excuse that they have. So if you've seen it, you take these injuries that they've had and you assign them exactly position by position to a team in the upper echelon in both conferences, I don't think you're looking at 6-3 teams. The coaching's been great. The camaraderie's been great. It's a fun team to watch again for the short term. And the truth is, the superstars that we're all missing and that we all love and we want them to be back, well, we've been watching them for a while and it's never gotten to the mountaintop. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just looking at it from a different lens. And I think there's some excitement. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to beat the shit out of the Rams and the Seahawks every single time that we play them, because I can't stand those franchises. But like, you go into a game and you're just like, let me just watch ball, right? Let me find the 12, 14 pieces on this current roster that are going to be integral in next year's roster and beyond.
Yeah, and that's the exact same mentality I think we were prepared to have going into the season.
For sure.
And I was excited about it. You're damn right about that. And I think our expectations throughout this season, because of everything that's happened with the injuries and week in and week out, you get like one good performance from this team followed by a poor one, and then the sky is falling, and then the next week we're so bad. Like, our expectations have fluctuated quite a bit this season, more so than I remember in previous years. And I think we're back down to a more realistic expectation, where now that the deadline is passed and they made no moves, it's like, okay, fine. We can just roll with who we have and we'll have fun with whatever that is and whatever this team ends up doing. And like I said, I think they will surprise us at some points. They'll also disappoint us at some points, just because this is a team that's still learning, especially on the defensive side. A lot of young players, a lot of guys who are having to step up, and it's not always going to be pretty. So we've got that. But Weston, I mean, the game on Sunday, I think, was a good example of the good that it could look like, right?
Yeah,
when everything is kind of clicking, even when, you go into it a little bit nervous about who you have available, right? And this was the first game that we were going to see Keon White and Clinton Farrell, because the 49ers did not have Bryce Huff in this game, and Yetur Gross-Matos. So, I think our expectations, even with that, were somewhat tempered, but Clinton Farrell did a pretty good job, didn't he? And Keon White, even though he didn't fill up the box score at all, I mean, he had a pretty nice pressure rate.
Yeah, I was rather impressed. You're going to hear me saying a lot of praises from this game, but I was rather impressed with the defensive line. And you heard me say it during the game when we were talking, specifically on the Clelin Ferrell sack, where he came from behind and almost jolted the ball out on Dart, these are guys that have not played together yet, right? Like, lining up, new defense, maybe not for Farrell, right? Like, he's been around the block with us before, but for everybody. But it was the first time I saw, like, I'd call it rushing lane integrity. Nobody over pursued. Nobody was out of position, which, again, even with Farrell blowing past the quarterback and the quarterback sneaking up into that pocket, everybody was still home, so there was nowhere else to go while he was looking downfield. That allows for the sack. That's rushing the passer as a team. That's owning your responsibility. And with these new names and new faces and youth out there, I thought collectively in that regard about, rushing lane integrity and things. I thought that was their best game as a defensive line this season. And with nobodies for all intents and purposes that they were doing it with, I was really impressed with the defensive line. And I thought that was going to be problematic, just being able to get to the passer. They got home twice. I thought they were in Jackson Dart's face quite a bit throughout the game, certainly much more than they were in CJ Stroud's the week before. Granted, they weren't playing a top of the mill offensive line in this instance, but I thought they did everything that they were asked to do and a little bit more. And then that's why to me, the 49ers defensive line won the war of the trenches in this game. And that's what made things, made it easy sledding for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. Pleasantly surprised. I think it did feel more complete than it had in previous weeks. I thought also the coverage was way better this week, which is much needed change that needed to happen. And when we get into these nominations and flowers, we'll get more into that because I definitely want to spotlight some of those performances. But I guess at this point, Weston, with half an hour to go here, let's start talking about our nominees for 49K Player of the Week on a Tuesday. I know, we're a little late on this, but you guys will enjoy it anyway. So
you got no choice.
Yeah, so let's. I'll let you start with your first nominee for the week.
I do have a couple, Steph. I will narrow it down. I'll make decisions on the fly.
Yeah, we need to, because I'm saying I got so many names I want to talk about, but we got flowers later to give.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Spencer Burford, believe it or not. Now, this is going to sound crazy because I still don't understand how PFF grades actually work, and they serve zero value to me because my eye test said, yes, I know he gave up a sack, but ultimately jolted back into action, starting at left guard. Thought he kept Matt clean. Thought he pulled well. I saw him multiple times getting to the second level and boxing out the the linebacker on the second level to spring McCaffrey for longer runs, to spring Robinson for a little bit longer runs. I thought it was the cleanest left guard play that we've had since the start of the season. I don't care if it's Colby, if it's Barch, didn't matter. I thought Burford played honestly just a heck of a game, and it's hard to see during the game. This was something that I came to the conclusion of when we watching back the game and just really following the offensive line. Thought he played a really, really clean game. I have no idea why these PFF grades are as low as they are for him. He's the lowest graded offensive lineman that they had, and I thought he played the second best game of all the offensive linemen on this team, and I'll die on that hill. I thought Spencer Burford played a heck of a game in his return to action. Now it's, can you stack them, right? That's always been the problem with Spencer. He's played some good games, but then there's been horror moments. Can you build off of this now that you're back, and can you seize yourself a starting spot on the offensive line?
Yeah, it sounds like he's definitely going to have that opportunity with the performance that he had. And we'll see if he could take that from Ben Barch. Been a lot of changes, a lot of ins and outs on that left guard spot, right next to Trent. It'd be nice to have some continuity. Let's just figure this out and keep that guy there for the rest of the season, of course, health permitting. But I just want to see more cohesion. I think it's going to go a long way for them to have just one player be there for the rest of the way. So we'll see if Burford is that guy. But I didn't see anything too bad from him, so I'll take your word for it, Weston. He didn't exactly stand out when I watched the tape, so usually that's a good thing for
usually
for
when an offensive lineman stands out, it's not for the good things. You know what I mean? And it's nobody watches the offensive line, right? Brad Graham watches the offensive line. Everybody else follows the football. So it takes a conscious effort. But, yeah, just thought comparative to what we've seen so far for the year out of that particular position, to me, that was as clean as it gets from this team.
And he's been better at left guard than he ever was at tackle. So, yeah, probably a much better spot for him. All right, I'm going to stick on offense here because I think this goes hand in hand, right? The blocking from everyone, I thought was much improved. We're seeing that improve as the season goes on as well. And the main beneficiary of that was, of course, Christian McCaffrey. And this was a turn-up game for him. But we figured it would be because the Giants' run defense was so bad. But he definitely made the most of it. As far as his rushing stats, 28 carries, 106 yards, a touchdown for that as well. And he caught 5 passes. Again, the team's leading receiver, 67 receiving yards, a touchdown. That was the one where he was like wide open, Weston. Yep. And it's funny. I watched that play again, and I kept trying to play it because I'm just like, how was he that wide open? It seemed like it was more so a thing on the Giants side.
Yeah, blown coverage for sure.
Yeah. Well, sure. The linebacker that probably would have been covering on that side, he got, I don't know if it was meant to, I don't think it was like a pick play or anything, but he got just blasted on the line and just couldn't get to McCaffrey. But in any case, I mean, I love any time that McCaffrey can get that wide open for a touchdown. Yeah. It looks good. It looks good. So
doesn't happen often.
Right. So, and to be fair, he could be one-on-one on a linebacker and still get, a touchdown. So that's just who Christian McCaffrey is. But this was, I think, a great day for him, just showing once again how he could do it all for this team. Got to nominate him for that.
Yeah, it's God. Absolutely. He, on that particular play, that's the design, right? You sneak him out late. You don't hope the defender gets his clock cleaned trying to follow the play, but you hope somebody over pursues, forgets about their backside responsibility because you're hiding him behind the line. He's actually splitting the tackle in the guard and getting out there. So that's by design. And it's a thing of beauty when it works that well. But yeah, this is just Christian being Christian, and it just adds to our concerns of, gosh, he touches the ball an awful lot during the football game, and your running backs, your leading receiver, like week after week, but he truly is the definition of a workhorse. He is Mr. Football, and this team would be absolutely sunk without him at this moment in time. And this is just another week that echoes it, I think the only saving grace is like while he's touching the ball a lot, because contact is happening so close to the line of scrimmage, he hasn't gotten like knocked down like heavy or his clock cleaned or whatever terminology you want to use. It just feels like it's always like falling forward, right? Like and jacking him up because it hasn't been a big play or a clean hit like we've seen in years past, like in wide open space. But he's touching the ball quite. You want to talk about 2026? This concerns me about 2026. Like, is this sustainable? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we had that same question in the 2023 season, and then we came to find out in 2024 that it was in fact probably not. All right, Weston, who you got next for nominees?
I'm sticking on the offensive side of the ball again, and I'm actually going with Brian Robinson right now. Again, Steph, I hate to include everybody in on our conversations, but me saying to you, like, this was meant to be a Brian Robinson game, right? This the bad run defense. Let's be physical against them. You could bide some time and limit McCaffrey's touches on this. And all he did was tote the ball for five carries, 53 yards, a touchdown, 10.6 yards per a carry with a long of 18. And oh, by the way, we mentioned about how special teams needs to be crucial to part of this. All he's doing is looking like a solid kickoff returner the last 2 weeks. They're like, I never would have guessed. I was mad that he was even out there for KO return in the first place, but now he's had consecutive weeks of big returns to give us good field position. I don't want to belabor a point, but feels like they're finding a little niche for him. Feels like he's getting a little comfortable. Feels like if the contact's going to be that close to the line of scrimmage, maybe you want the more physical brand of Brian Robinson Jr. Toting the rock a little bit more frequently. But I thought he made a good case for himself in this game to say, give me more. I deserve more opportunities, especially not knowing what the outcome for this team is going to be for the remainder of the season.
Weston, this was, in my opinion, much more a Flowers type of performance for Brian Robinson. But you know what, Weston? I think this was an opportunity for you to tell everyone that you called it with Brian Robinson. But it was a favorable game script, just given the fact that the run defense of the Giants not great, McCaffrey getting as many touches as he did in this one. Brian Robinson could kind of come in and be the closer in certain moments. And it worked out. And seeing him get more involved as a kick return man, as I think has been great to find some use for him there. I mean, you traded for him after all. Like, let's use him, right? And I think, yes, you're seeing the benefits of doing that. I don't think it's going to be an every week thing. I do kind of think they'll take it week to week, just depending on the matchups and which ones work favorable for involving him. But yes, I did like what I saw in the kick return. Hurdled the guy towards the end of it too, like just very tough on his one touchdown, just absolutely obliterating the corner and said, I'm getting this tutty. I don't care. You're just in my way, man. Get out of here. I love that. And he was really great in the red zone for Washington, which is why, I was a little surprised 49ers hadn't really used him much to this point, especially in the red zone. But you see there on that play why he could be very effective there. So I'll let you. I'll allow it.
We'll allow it. All right.
Let you have this
one up me. You got to one up me now. You got to throw a banger out here.
I got to go with Tatum Bethune. We're going to the defensive side of the ball now, and I got to go with Tatum Bethune. He was all over the place. 16 total tackles in this one, and when you watch it back, I mean, you do see him truly involved in everything. And when we talked about earlier, the gap integrity, fitting the gaps and all that, I think Tatum did a great job of filling those and, doing his job, just, I don't know. As we've mentioned several times, and as you mentioned, he's not that speed guy. He's not like flying all over the place. He doesn't have the sideline to sideline speed, but he will get to the right place. And he's not that slow either. Like, I don't want to make it say like he's running in dirt, but I think just the fact that, I feel like we're seeing him get better with diagnosing plays each and every week and just knowing his assignments. And so I think when all is said and done on this season, we're going to look at Tatum Bethune from that first game that he had to go into, fill in for Fred, to, the last game of the season, and just be like, wow, did he grow a lot, and I think this is one of those building block sort of games for Tatum Bethune, in which he reminds us that, hey, I may not be Fred, but I got it covered. Like, I'm good in my own right. And definitely have to commend him for his effort and his performance on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think you used the perfect description. He was everywhere. Wherever the ball was, he was. I think what I love about it is you got to watch firsthand, like, the game is slowing down for him a little bit, right? Yeah. Like, he's trusting his instincts, and not even just on the plays where he's making the impact. I saw multiple plays where, when you're watching the TV version versus in game, you get a better sense of this, where even when he's in pursuit and he's late, like, you see his head check every read while he is moving out there. Like, hey, this is fit 1, this is fit 2, that's 3, right? Like, go. And you don't often see that from a young player, a second-year player, especially one who's like thrusted into action. And then the obvious is, hey, the defense did not look good last week, right? Like, and we've talked about being out of rhythm, out of order, out of place, all that stuff. Didn't look that way. And you have to give a nod to the guy who wears the green dot, making sure his people are aligned in the right place, understand the play that's called. Like, yes, I know that's also coaching, but there's coaching on the field that takes place, and it comes from the individual who's wearing the green dot. So I agree wholeheartedly. At the end of this year, you're going to look back and say, we were confident in his ability, but we certainly didn't expect that. And this is what I mean by 12 to 14 guys finding their place, even with a healthy Fred, a healthy D. It's hard to take Tatum Bethune off the field. Like, you might have to find a spot for him.
Yeah, indeed. And, he has that spot now, and he's making the most of it. So Tatum Bethune definitely showing out. Do you have any more nominees, Weston?
No, I think we'll go flower route. Just looking at the clock.
He had to cut it off at Brian Robinson. That's the line. This guy over here. This guy. Well, what's crazy is, like, I do have 2 players that I want to nominate,
Yeah,
but they're
I'm
very
the same.
close. They're like very close, and I'll just give them flowers. But yeah,
That's where I'm at.
okay. So let's put these names up on the screen of who we have uh, nominated for this week's 49K Player of the Week. As always, live chat, you guys are going to help us vote. So put in the live chat who you want us to vote or who you want to vote for 49K Player of the Week. We have Spencer Burford, Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr., and Tatum Bethune. But for the two players that I want to give flowers to, who, I was thinking of nominating them. I just couldn't quite gauge who was better than the other. I think they were both like equally as good in this game, and they both play corner, Upton Stout and Renardo Green. And the reason that I think they both had their best games of the season on Sunday.
Yeah.
And both, young players, and both guys, we've seen them get targeted a hell of a lot, this year. And, that's led to a lot of receptions given up and things like that. But this week, yes, they did give up receptions too, but I just feel like the coverage was way better. And you see also what they're doing in terms of the run game, the defense there. Renardo Green had a couple plays in this one. He had a couple of pass breakups that I thought were really important for the 49ers. And then Upton Stout had the one play. I forgot which quarter this was. I should have been writing notes as I was watching the film. But you remember, Weston, I even pointed out during the game, he got that tackle on the running back. I forget if it was Tracy or Singletary. And it was along the left sideline. And it was like he got him by his arm and just would not let go until he got him out of bounds. And I was like, oof, if he doesn't get that tackle, that's a touchdown. And that, I want to say, was before halftime or something like that, because
it was in the second quarter. It was late in the second. It was like late in the second quarter when it happened, because they ended up punting after that, because there was a lot. Or was that the missed field right after the missed
field?
That
was the missed field goal. So that's what I'm saying. Like these things matter, right? And then so suddenly, if he makes that, the score, it's a 7-point game going into halftime, and it feels different, right?
Yep.
But since they didn't get that, they missed the field goal. Like it just shows how small things can be big things in the grand scheme of a football game. And I think both of those guys contributed equally to it being a very positive day for the 49ers on defense. So just had to give credit to both of them. I know, like, one of Renardo's pass breakups was on a 3rd and long as well. So just huge. I mean, I just hope they could keep this momentum up and carry it into, the following games, because you're going to need it.
Yeah. I mean, right now we're just looking for people to stack performances. And Renardo was definitely somebody that I was giving flowers to. I thought it was his best game of the season. I thought the pass breakups were very timely. You mentioned that 3rd and long. They punt. We go down the field. That's Jawan Jennings' touchdown. It's a 14-7 ball game early, right? Like, so those are all big momentum builders. Stout continues to get, again, another one that I think the game slows down just a little bit more every single week. He's still going to make mistakes because he's aggressive. It's not just because he's young. He's aggressive. And that's what you want out of your nickel and your slot corner. Definitely pleased with their performance. If I had to, I had 2 players flowers. One was Renardo. The other one for me is Mac Jones. It has to be Mac Jones, 19 to 24, 235, 2 TDs, just under 10 a clip, 135, rating on the game. But it's just, he feels like he's leading this team. It feels like the offense is taking on his personality. And I go to the Jawan Jennings touchdown again, and you've probably seen a million clips of it where the receivers are all celebrating their dance together, and you see Mac like kind of creeping in, trying to do it, just trying to get a part of it. That's a swag. That's a confidence thing, especially as a backup quarterback, and you're having success right now that this team gravitates to. And just he's just been consistent week after week after week. And he's getting, even when he's getting his ass handed to him, he gets right back up. I believe this team rallies around him. I know we're all anxious to see Brock come back. I still don't have any questions about whose team it is, but I'm fine with watching Mac Jones play a couple more weeks. It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed it, and I think it unlocks a different element of the offense for Kyle, where we saw Watkins get involved in this game, made a nice catch, a really nice catch that looked significantly better on television than it did from where we were sitting. But I think with nothing to lose for the rest of the season, you're going to see elements of that further unlocked. And I think Mac's going to be the guy that lets us see what ability some of these other guys have. So thought Mac just been the model of consistency and, just giving the nod, I see you, brother. I see what you're doing out there.
Yeah, he sure has. And he just seems to fit, I think, just the culture, the vibe of, 49ers, and just even from the fan standpoint, what we like to see in players, he just kind of embodies it. Yep. It's been really cool to see. And clearly he's comfortable with who he is, and, just what we're seeing him do as a player as well has been awesome, just commanding this offense. And you could look at it and be like, okay, him and Brock do some of the same things, but there's different elements to it. Yeah. You appreciate Brock. You appreciate Mac. He gets the ball out, quickly and, to the right spots. He's not, I was going to say he's not turning the ball over, but he does. He has turned the ball over a bit as well.
Every quarterback does.
It looks different though. Yeah. I think I like what Mac's doing out there, and it's not jaw dropping or anything, but it's getting the job done. And that's really all you need. He's playing out there with bad knees and bloody noses. Come on, how can you not love the guy? Yeah, I love him. So
Steady Eddie.
He's
just
doing.
Been Steady Eddie all season.
Steady Eddie. Kyle's loving it. But all right, who do you vote for, Weston, for 49K Player of the Week?
It's Christian McCaffrey.
Has to be, right? I think that's where my vote is going to go as well. We got a unanimous 49K Player of the Week for Week 9. Man, this was a memorable one, and your son voted for CMC too. We've got all CMCs in the chat. Appreciate all of you that voted. Weston, again, appreciate you and your wife for the hospitality out there in New York. Shout out to everyone that I met, everyone that said what's up. I appreciate all of you as well. You guys are awesome. Hope you guys are tuning in. And if you're not, hit that notification bell so you know when I go live. Why haven't you done that yet? But if you are here, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. And if you know the schedule around here, it is Tuesday. So in a few short minutes here, we'll be going live with the Bully Ball podcast with Jay, who I also hung out with. We both did in New York as well. So make sure you guys tune into that. But for now, have a good rest of your Tuesday, folks. All right. Peace.